Cheers, Squaffers, Godless Cranium, and all other good people out there. Hopswatch here, and welcome to another A Beer with live stream. My guest tonight is one of the voices in the atheist community that truly speaks for the weak, the oppressed, and the needy, and he's from Canada. I welcome Mike, also known as Godless Cranium. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on your show.
No problem. My pleasure. And an honor. If I understand you correctly, you are having your favorite drink, which is coffee.
yeah, I think coffee's probably my favorite drink. I drink a lot of it, so.
So do I. So just wanted to make clear that it's absolutely fine to appear on my channel and not drink beer. My channel is a beer channel, but any drink is more than welcome, as long as it's something people actually want to drink.
It's probably blasphemy, but I don't even think I have any beer. I might. My fiance might have beer because she likes to drink it. But
okay,
if I do drink, it's usually rum.
You drink rum? Oh, just like Kate, Bionic Dance.
Oh yeah. Actually, I don't know if it was Bionic Dance or Godless Engineer, but one of them told me about Kraken rum, which I'd never tried before. And you add it to 7-Up and orange juice. And at first I thought that's not going to taste good, but it actually tastes delicious. So that's probably my drink of choice if I had to go with alcohol.
Cool. But you do drink beer once in a while, do you?
Yeah, occasionally. Very rarely, though. I mean, I probably drink maybe twice a year.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of strange. Like I have, like sometimes I'll get an urge, like say like after a hard day's work or something, and it's Friday night, and my fiance usually works a couple of hours past when I do, so I'll be in the mood. I'll say, hey, why don't you grab some drinks or whatever, and we'll have some tonight. And by the time she brings them home, I am not in the mood anymore. So I have to have it like right when I'm in the mood to do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I completely understand. So what would be your favorite beer if you could name one? Name one that you can drink.
My favorite beer used to be Marca Bavaria. It's kind of like Corona. So how appropriate.
Yeah,
they don't make it anymore, which kind of sucks because I would probably drink beer more if they still made it.
Marca Bavaria. So I guess that would be a pale lager of sorts.
Yeah, I believe it was like a Brazilian beer. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if you take Corona, Corona's probably the closest that you'd get to it.
Right. Let me just see. I guess we can still talk about Corona beer. I guess that would be okay. But I'm not monetized anyway, so no worries there. So Marca Bavaria. Bavaria. That's just like the German.
Yeah, it's like kind of it's kind of a running joke because sometimes a lot of things that I like eventually like they just get taken off the market.
Oh.
So
let me see. Marca Bavaria. It's because I'm spelling it with a K instead of a C. There we go. I found it, I think, in a beer collector's on a beer collector website,
yeah,
which could indicate that you're right, that it doesn't exist anymore. And then there is I think that's a Dutch company making an alcohol-free beer called Bavaria, which is actually not that bad. It's one of the better alcohol-free beers that I've tried, but it wouldn't be that one.
No,
sure.
It's definitely the one that the collector has.
Right. Yeah. Okay. This one is a Belgian beer. It's one that I bought in my local supermarket, and it was sold to me, or it was recommended to me as a sour beer, and I really like sour beers. And this is also it's a red ale macerated with juice from sour cherries, and nice. I've just poured it, and I found out that it is actually quite more sour than I had expected, because I mean red ales are a bit of a weird thing between pale beers and dark beers, and doesn't really want to be one or the other, and ends and a nondescript place in between them. But this is actually quite promising.
Well, cherry beer.
This is very good. Oh, this is very good. I should have put this in my dragon glass. I got this this glass in a pewter stand, which is shaped like a three-headed dragon with wings and all. But I wanted to just do a little bit of, call it advertising if you like, for Lüggen Brückhus. That's kind of local to where I live. It's about 100 kilometers away. They sent me a bunch of beers the other day, so I used the glass that they sent me with it. However, they did not produce this beer. It's a Belgian one, as I said. Oh, this is good. Nice and sour. It's not a. I've had more sour beers. It's a medium sour beer, I would say, and the cherries give it that perfect bit of sweetness. This is very, very well balanced. So a good beer for a good conversation. So let me just get my questions up here. I understand you work a lot as well. 6 days a week, you told me.
Yeah, I do. Sundays are usually my only day off. COVID's been kind of playing with that. So when COVID first broke out, I wasn't allowed. So I work in social services, so I wasn't allowed to. I have 2 main clients that I work with, okay. And my hours kind of get split between them. So 3 days with one, 3 days with the other, and we weren't allowed to be with 2 different clients at the beginning of COVID, but they've lifted that. So now I'm back to my regular hours. But before, it took probably about a third of my hours away. But in Canada, they had Canadian emergency benefit for people that were losing hours through no fault of their own, and that helped out. So yeah, and at the same time, I was getting evicted from our from our rental place. So it wasn't a very good time, but I think we're almost over the hump now. So
good. That's good to hear. You're an essential worker, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm an essential worker, and so is my fiance actually. So that's been one kind of good thing during COVID, but yeah.
Yeah, because you were guaranteed more or less a job, right?
Yeah, well, unless like the government takes away the funding, which they're not going to do in the middle of a pandemic, I wouldn't think. So
not Canada, after all.
No. And hi, Mr. Bear and Critical Cripple. By the way, how's the new house? Mr. Bear's asking. So we ended up buying. We're in the midst of buying a house. We're supposedly taking possession on November 2nd, so I won't be moving until November 7th.
Okay.
So the house is still there, but we're not in it. We're still in the rental right now.
That's the day after my birthday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have I plan on doing a birthday stream.
Oh, nice.
However, the specifics I'm not absolutely clear about them when it's going to be, but it is definitely going to be, and everyone it's going to be an open stream where anyone who wants to whom I send the invitation can jump in and join me for beers and some general coziness.
Nice. That sounds fun. I'll probably not have internet yet, but happy birthday in the beginning.
Thank you. Well, you'll be busy moving, and I mean, if there's something I absolutely hate, it's moving. I would enjoy it more, I think, if it was actually into a house that I had bought myself. I will still say.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a move. We've moved a lot of the boxes down because right now we live in the city, and where we're moving is in the country. So nice. That's going to be a big change, but it's a little bit of a drive from where we work. It's half an hour to 45 minutes, and so we got a storage unit out there because we're hiring movers to move the heavy furniture and stuff like that.
Right.
So we've moved the boxes out there, so we don't have to pay $160 an hour for them to move boxes. I can move myself. So, yeah.
So you live either in the deep forest now or up in the mountains, because that's the countryside of Canada, isn't it?
No, definitely not. There's a lot of like farmland around us. So there's not a lot of forest. There's actually a couple of beaches that are down the road from us, and like I said, a lot of farms. So it's going to be a different experience. It's a very small town. It's like one street basically is the main street, and that's it. So it's going to be huge. I've always lived in the city. I grew up around Toronto, and I've kind of like moved from there, and I've gone to Waterloo and stuff like that. So I've always lived in the city, and I've never really liked it, but that's kind of where the jobs are and stuff like that. So.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I moved out of the city, out of Copenhagen, about a year ago. 1.5 years it is always now, and into a small town, about as far away as you can get from Denmark. Rubbish. About as far away as you can get from Copenhagen without actually leaving the country. Mm-hmm. And the very far end, actually, and a small town, but also a very nice little town, far away from all the many people and the many cars, and especially all the new fancy and ridiculously expensive housing.
Yeah, housing here is like, that's why we tried to buy in the city, but because of COVID, a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people are probably either losing their homes, or that was like the last straw. They just couldn't take it anymore. And so the investors have moved in, because we weren't prepared for it. And so like we're at the like low end of what we can afford kind of deal where we are. And we were getting outbid by like on a house where it was listed as 250,000. They were going for like 355,000. So there's just no way that we could buy a house here.
That's a lot. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, huge difference. Wow. In fact, it was in the paper just recently about how it's not sustainable, because people just can't afford to pay that kind of money, especially during a thing. But that's part of my problem with landlords. They buy up the cheap properties and prevent people that are able to, finally able to afford a home. Now they can't afford the home like us, and their rent, exactly. They'll take those properties and rent them out, right? And
capitalism is a system where you will have a lot of homeless people along with a lot of empty houses.
yeah, exactly. It's not an ideal situation, but
no, it's definitely not. And I mean, now we are actually pretty deep into the one of the main features of your channel, you could say. I mean, you have a social edge to what you are making videos about, content about, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So could you kind of just tell us a bit about that?
So I've always, I guess part of the reason why, I don't know how I want to frame it, but before I did YouTube, I did blogging, and the reason why I kind of focused on religiosity was because it was mainly the religious community that were trying to prevent same-sex marriage and things like that. So I was really kind of talking about social issues through the lens of religiosity or non-religiosity or atheism or whatever. And I've kind of continued to do that through my channel, but I think somewhere along the line, people stopped seeing it that way. They started seeing it as just another atheist channel. And so I've kind of tried to go back to that thing, because it's really not, I really don't want to be just the person that just confirms other people's beliefs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just saying to people, there's no God. I could do that all day. It's boring. I don't care about it really, in the big scheme of things. And that's not what I want to do with my channel. So I mean, that's the way that you get more subscribers. So I could keep doing that and probably keep growing, continuing to talk about leftist issues on YouTube is not lucrative. It's lost me a lot of subs. Plus, I'm not I'm not a team player in a lot of ways. I don't go along with groups because they're part of my group. I have what I think of, I hope are values that I'm not going to give away. I don't know how to put it, but there's a lot of like transphobia and stuff in the atheist community, and I want no part of that. I don't want them being sub to me. I don't mind if they're sub to me because they want to learn a different perspective, but I don't want them sub to me because I don't want them to feel as if I'm part of the group that is giving them reasons to think that that's a good idea to believe that way. You know what I mean? And after I made a video criticizing a much larger atheist channel than my own for their transphobia, that kind of came home to me. Yeah.
Was that the one about trans Santa Claus?
No, that was trans athletes.
Okay. Oh yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah. And yeah, so after that, I quickly realized from my comment section that I had a lot of people that were subscribed to me that I recognized in my comment section that were just horrendously transphobic. And that it really kind of shook me because I didn't realize that. And I take partial blame for that, right? Like, I mean, I can't control what they believe, but I also didn't talk about it enough. And so, people just kind of assumed I was part of that, and that's on me. And so I had to like change that. And I think I've done that. Like I said, I lost a lot of subs, but I mean, a lot of them were probably transphobic and or part of the whole anti-SJW craze, which I don't want any part of either. So
a lot of us don't.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as, and this is a community that I don't know very much about, but do you see yourself as a bread tuber?
I don't know. I've for a long time I didn't even know what. I had people comment to me that I was a bread tuber, but I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And then somebody told me that I've had people tell me that it's about communism, and I'm not a communist. And so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if bread tubers, if people that like the bread tube community like my videos, I'm fine with that. But I try not to label myself. I don't really like. I don't want to say that I'm a bread tuber or I'm a disc tuber. I'll let other people do that for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, bread. The concept of bread tube is taken from Peter Kropotkin.
Conquest of Bread.
And the Conquest of Bread, yeah, and he was an anarchist. I guess he also called himself a communist anarchist. So I guess you could argue you could be both and one or the other, both at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think I'm an anarchist either, because the way I understand anarchy and anarchism, and again, I might be completely wrong about this, but is that their whole thing is about hierarchies and unjust hierarchies, and I think that there's value in that. I definitely think that there are unjust hierarchies, and they should be criticized. But I don't. At the end goal of anarchism, I'm not sure would be possible. I don't think that you're ever going to have a society without hierarchies of some kind. Now, can we like make those hierarchies less? Then yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. So I guess I see value in that. Same with the way that I think that there's value in how communists critique capitalism, but I'm not a communist because I don't think the way that it always ends up is it concentrates power in the hands of even fewer people than capitalism, which I think is really the problem, right? When you have a lot of power in the hands of one or two individuals, that's why I'm always for democratizing the workplace, because the workplace is basically the employer has all the power and the employees don't, and that's why you have problems. People don't like their jobs, they don't want to go there, they can get fired, they don't have any power over, you know, what they're making or how much they're getting paid, or if you know, they just have to rely on the boss to be perfect, you know, to tell them how much, you know, we're going to give you a $2 raise because we did good this year, but meanwhile they're giving themselves a, you know, a $50 raise. So and they're not doing 50 times the work that the worker is. So
no,
yeah,
no,
so there's definitely like good, like I think there's like value in all of those different ideologies, I guess.
Yeah, so I think I will actually myself identify as an anarchist, but I mean, an anarchist is something that you can be in many different ways and to different extents. And I will definitely give you that you need hierarchies of some sort. I mean, it's called distribution of labor. I mean, the way that we specialize, stuff like that, will automatically form hierarchies. Those will be informed hierarchies based on competence, meritocracy, so to say. And I see that as a good thing. I mean, you want people that build bridges to be able to do that and to be better at that than people who do farming, for example.
Yeah, even the meritocracy to me is it's kind of a weird term, because most of the things that we do are like, for example, we'll just say me, right? You know, I grew up in a middle class a family. I had nothing to do with that. That's just where I was born. And you know, person B could be you know, been born to a homeless person and not had the same privileges as me, and not been able to go to the same schools as me, and not been able to have the opportunities that I was afforded, or have the same social networks that I had, right? And obviously there's people that are way more you know, privileged than I am, but you know, the whole thing of meritocracy is I really didn't earn a lot of the things that helped me along the way towards where I am now, kind of deal. And so I think that we all kind of got to like take a step back and realize that, you know, a lot of the things that affect us are luck, or things that we had nothing to do with, or we had very little to do with.
Right.
And so, like, you know, I think that's a kind of a slippery slope. When people start talking about meritocracy, it often sounds to me, and I'm not saying this about you, but it often sounds to me as if they're trying to take credit for things that they really don't have. They shouldn't be taking credit for, basically, I guess. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it can end up in that, definitely. Want to say hi to Conspiracy Cats. Love your show. Even though I think that so what you said in your comment was anarchists confuse me. I get their viewpoints, but total lack of rule is a no-go. And I would actually go as far as to say that the concept of anarchists as being people who don't believe in laws and rules at all and want to do away with all of them is a vulgar version of anarchy that is not what Proudhon and Kropotkin and Bakunin even were thinking of when they were formulating their ideas. So it's more I would say it's more of a straw man concept of what anarchy is really about, at least as far as I see it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would agree, and I think that there's, like I said, there's a lot of really valuable stuff within anarchy, or anarchism, or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of valuable ideas and valuable critiques in that ideology. Definitely, it's good. But overall, I don't think that I could be an anarchist. But I know, who knows, right? Like, you're always evolving, always kind of learning. So maybe I'll run into an anarchist that's super.
What I really like about anarchism and those ideas is not believing in authority for authority's sake. And I think if you want to reduce anarchism into its core element, into its essence, if you like, that would be it. That you don't accept authority just for authority's sake. I will, at least I will accept authority if it's based on merit, or if it's based on merit than anything else, I would say. So, just.
Well, it's like if you're like a doctor who spent their entire life studying germ theory or something, then they should be taken. Obviously they have way more authority. They should have way more authority than I would on germ theory, right? So definitely, like in that way, I could definitely see that. But
cool. I see that Conspiracy Cat says. Sorry, I'm showing my ignorance on the topic when I said that. Apologies. You don't need to apologize, Katz. I mean, you run a show where you teach people things. I'm glad. I'm actually a bit honored that I was able to teach it just a wee bit there. Okay. If I can ask you just a couple of things about your appearance, your iconography, also the name of the channel. How did that come up?
So when I used to blog, that was the name of my blog, and the reason why I originally started writing in I think it was like an MSNBC kind of like blog site that they had, and it kind of ranked people. So it was, if you got so many views and comments and all that kind of stuff, it would rank you as like in the, if you're in the top 10 or 300 or whatever of this on this site. And I started out blogging because I didn't think it would go anywhere. I had a book, and it was a John Grisham book I was reading at the time. And and so I just named myself Grisham and started writing under that pseudonym, and ended up being really popular on that site, consistently in the top 10. And I wanted to do it on my own blog under a better name. And I just thought that it was a good name because it wasn't like offensive to religious people, because I wanted religious people to read my stuff at the time. But it also told you what the channel or what my site was about. So I just thought it was a kind of a unique name. Now that I'm on YouTube, I see that there's like Godless Engineer and other people, but I didn't know about those people at the time. And so that's how it was just, I don't have a God belief in my head kind of thing. It's how
Okay, yeah. So when you actually,
but it wasn't like an attack on the religious community at the same time.
I get it. Okay. So when did you start?
I don't know, actually. I think it's like 3 years ago, maybe. I think it's like 3 years ago, maybe. Might be longer. I don't know. Time goes by fast,
Yeah, it does. It does. Cool. And you. So when I was making the screen for this stream, I actually just ripped one of your avatars from one of your videos and made the screen out of that. And I asked that because sometimes it's better to get forgiveness than permission. That's a Danish saying.
I'm sorry you had to go through that much work. You could have just emailed me and I would have sent you one. But
right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, it's something I often do in the spur of a moment, and I just want to get it over with. So rather than writing emails, but. Who made those awesome avatars for you?
So Marvin Animation did. There's a link in the description box of the videos to his channel, but he has at the time he had 3,000 subscribers on his channel, and I was watching one of his streams, and I really liked his art, and so I just messaged him because at the time I was using a stock photo of it was like a guy in the shadows holding out his hand, and at the time it resembled like the Matrix, the red pill thing or whatever, but that's not what I wanted. But it was just the best picture I could find at the time, and so I asked him, I was like, hey, I really want kind of like a unique avatar instead of this weird picture. And he said okay, and at first he was kind of like, he didn't really want to, because at the time I had like 100 subscribers, and YouTubers are weird, and they're like, oh, you don't have enough subscribers to pay attention to, kind of thing. So anyways, so he eventually was like, okay, I'll make you an avatar. I'll make you a couple of them. and he did it, and that's what he came up with because he watched my videos at the time, and that's kind of like the mental image he had of me.
Okay.
And so yeah, so that's just what he came up with. I had really nothing to do with it. I didn't tell him anything about how to do it or whatever. I just kind of liked it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I've used it since then.
Right. Look like script that again. I mean, personally, I don't come from much of a religious background. I'm actually one of those people. I mean, if I came up to if I were in a situation that a lot of atheists describe, that they have a discussion with the people that are very religious, often Christian, and they tell how they became atheists, then the Christians will often say, well, you never really were a Christian. You never really were a believer. Now, and a lot of people, for good reason, take offense of that. I, however, personally, I would actually say, yeah, you're probably right. And that's about how religious I were. I probably really weren't ever, to a very big extent. But how about yourself? Because you do have a background in, you said Presbyterianism and baptism.
Southern Baptist. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth on it because like my earliest memories was going to church with my grandmother and my parents, and we would go down to Sunday school, and I got kicked out of Sunday school by our Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Armour was her name.
I want to hear that story.
Well, see, at the time, I've always been a reader. Like as a kid, I was a reader, and my dad used to get National Geographics, and later on, he actually got me my own subscription, and he kept it until the day he died. I got it, and anyway, so a lot of the things that they would say in Sunday school contradicted what National Geographic was saying, and so I had a lot of questions. And eventually, Mrs. Armour just kicked me out. Like she told my parents that I was disruptive and that I was going to lead other children to, questioning their faith, which in their eyes is would be bad because they'd go to hell.
Yeah, right.
And so so I had to sit with my parents in the church and listen to the sermons instead of going to Sunday school like the rest of the kids. And I've always been kind of like that. Like there's just things about. I'm sorry about my dog. Hold on.
No problem. I had Aaron Ra on the other day. He always has a lot of dogs barking.
Yeah, my dog's crazy. My fiance took the other one out, so I'm sorry. My lab is barking. Anyways, so I've always had like questions and nothing. It's never really made sense to me. But did I believe in like the Jesus story? Probably. I would say I did. And I believed a lot of like there was things in the church that are like terribly racist and stuff like that I believed when I was a kid, right? Like I was taught when I was a kid that AIDS was a direct result of being gay, kind of. So that's how that happened. And stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. So there was like bad aspects of the religion that I believed, and if I believed in Jesus, I would assume that means that I'm a Christian. So I did believe in that stuff, but it was always kind of like a rocky belief. It was always like I believe it, but that's just because I don't have enough evidence to say it's not true, and everybody around me says it's true. So
okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do, and there's one hell of a lot of peer pressure there, isn't there?
Yeah, there definitely is, and like it's still to that day because a lot of my family is really religious, and so that's caused friction at some of our family events when they'll make outrageous statements like the one time my uncle said something like, I can prove everything that Jesus said was true or something like that, and me and him had a disagreement about that, and then he ended up going to my mom and saying, your son has a lot of really weird beliefs, and so I mean,
you were the one with the weird beliefs.
Yeah, I'm the one with the weird beliefs.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but most of the time, it never comes up, right? Like it just doesn't come up. That he was drinking at the time, so
Okay. Yeah, that's I mean, I'm thinking peer pressure, because when I think back at my own childhood and the religion that was there, my family has never. I mean, when I grew up, my family hasn't been very religious. I found out at my, but traditional religion is very strong here in Denmark, and I'm actually baptized in the Lutheran Danish church, and I was even confirmed in the belief. Later on, I left the church when I finally found out that I don't really believe in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
However, Christianity is actually a subject in school, and it's not religion; it's Christianity. And what you will be taught in the Danish school, at least what I was being taught, was that were well-core doctrines such as you only go to heaven if you believe in God, and maybe there's a caveat if you believe this, but not really. I mean, it depended a bit on which teacher we had. There was one teacher said, I mean, just like I said before, you will only go to heaven if you believe in God. Another, and I will say better teacher, was more informative. This is what we as Lutherans believe. This is what Catholics believe. And there was, of course, a bias against the Catholics and pro-Lutheran, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, but it was there. So, but still, there's an element of actual indoctrination in the Danish school system, and I don't really, even though I will say I wasn't damaged. I mean, I do kind of remember that sometimes I was afraid of ending up in hell, but then I kind of brushed it off and said, doesn't really feel right after all. It doesn't make sense. So I don't think I was damaged.
Yeah, that fear of hell though, that kind of like clings on to you, right? Like I've met lots of people that are atheists now that still harbor some remnant of that fear, right?
There's a lot of that, and I am glad that I have never been so religious that I've really felt that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of times, like at the church, I mean, Southern Baptist, they do believe in hell, but the Presbyterians never really kind of pushed that angle. It wasn't really about hell, although in the background it kind of hovered there, but it wasn't like most of their sermons weren't talking about, if you do this, you're going to go to hell. It was just more about how to live a positive life, or their version of a positive life, which I now wouldn't think is a positive version of life. But there's still things about church that I find comforting. Like I like the smell of the wood in when they have wood pews and stuff like that. And things, just small things like that. Obviously there's a sense of community. I'm kind of it's weird because I work in social services, so I have to like hang out with people a lot, but when I'm by myself, I'm usually an introvert, which is, I think a lot of YouTubers are, because like making YouTube videos is kind of an introverted endeavor. You're basically sitting in front of your computer.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's not a group project.
No, it isn't. I really enjoy these back and forths that we have in live streams, but I really also need my alone time. Mm-hmm. So I think the being introvert is a feature amongst YouTubers.
Yeah, I think so too. Like there's obviously there's probably lots of extroverted YouTubers, but I find in the YouTube circles that I have been a part of, that most of them seem to be introverts, or at least partial introverts. And that's how they kind of like do their thing. And I'm like that as well. Like I can spend most of my time, if I have my fiance and my dogs, I'm good. Like, that's pretty much all I need. So.
Right. But what I found out, because there never has been much religion in my family while I was brought up, but my niece was confirmed a couple of years ago, and I mean my siblings are still confirming their kids, and I mean if they want to do that, fine. I don't. I mean. I don't do that to my own kids. However, my own kids aren't baptized. It's custom in Denmark that you actually baptize kids when they are small. I mean, infant baptism is very strong around here. But I haven't done that with my kids. My siblings have, and my eldest niece got confirmed a couple of years ago. And my cousin, he's somewhat older than me. He came with this huge folder of material, pictures, and poetry books, stuff like that from my family, like many generations ago. And my family, that part of the family comes from northern Germany, more specifically the small islands just west of Germany in the North Sea. And there was just God everywhere in those poems. And by the way, those poems were written, of course, sorry, in German, and with this quite difficult to read Gothic handwriting. Very, 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 very beautiful, but difficult to read. And it was God this, God that, and God everywhere. So apparently it has had a huge importance in my family, and I mean some 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm happy it doesn't have any more, but at the same time I don't really know what to think about that.
Yeah, it's like, well, and it's like that everywhere, right? I think like religion's kind of receding in most places in the world, so it's losing a lot of its influence, which is why I think you're seeing a lot of, like, especially in the States, you're seeing a lot of extremism pop up around religion and religious groups, because they're trying to fight back against losing the power that they once had. So I think Trump's kind of part of that whole phenomena.
Oh yeah, he is. So is there any subject in Canadian schools? I don't know anything about the Canadian school system, but is there a subject akin to the subject of Christianity, as I was describing it, that is in Danish elementary school?
No, not really. I mean, Catholic schools are pretty prominent around where I live. So there's like religious studies in Catholic schools, so it's a mandatory thing. But in the public schools, I don't think there's a lot of it. It also depends on which school board you're in, because like I remember when I was a kid and we had to take French, for example, and I was in the Toronto school, and when I moved to the Waterloo region, it was a drastic difference between, like, I was like in like high school in grade 8, like they were learning what I learned in like grade 8 in high school. So I seemed like I was like almost like fluent in French at that point. So I would assume that it's kind of like that. We're all over the place, right? Like it depends on where you are and what emphasis they put on those subjects.
Okay. Right. So it sounds decentralized to me, and I mean, at the face of it, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how it works. That's one thing I've not really paid much attention to, is I don't know how, like, if Ontario's curriculum is different than Saskatchewan or something, but it might be that they learn differently in Saskatchewan than they do in Ontario, and even the different regions. Like, there's obviously a set guideline of what you have to learn throughout Ontario, and you have to meet that kind of level. And I think that's changed quite a bit since I went to school. Like, I think they've probably tried to equalize it more, but when I went a long time ago, it was there was a big market difference between one region and another.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you, Conspiracy Cats, for your very nice comment there. Right. I don't have much more really to talk about. But if anyone in the chat has a question for Godless Cranium, now is when you want to put them up there. In the meantime, tell me about your dogs.
I could talk for hours about my dogs. I have my lab Dexter, who's 7, going on 8 in March. He was with me before I met my fiance, so he's been my longtime friend.
Right, that would be the big dog, right?
Yes, he's the biggest dog. He's anywhere between 80 and 100 pounds, depending on what time you talk about it. But I try to keep him below 90 pounds. So he's usually hovers between 80 and 90.
Well, that's big. That's even big for a lab. Wow.
Yeah, his dad was actually 120 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a big. He was a black lab, and he was like the breeder called him a German lab, and he looked a lot like a Rottweiler. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was mistaken for a Rottweiler, because he had this like square head and things. And obviously he couldn't be around humans very much, besides the people that raised him. He was being bred. Yeah, so I got him from a breeder. Our Chihuahua, Duke, he is a year younger than Dexter, and he was my fiance's before me, so we're like a blended family in that regard. And do
they get along?
Dexter and Duke get along great. They have I think Dexter was 2 or 3. I think he was 3 and Duke was 2 when they met. So they've bonded. They've had a long time to bond. And Duke, because he's so little, is good at staying out of people's way. And he never kind of like jumps on Dexter or anything, because Dexter's so big. And but Dexter, when he had an operation, he came back and he was really dopey, and Duke went out of his mind that Dexter was back. So Dexter's kind of the glue that kind of holds the dogs together. Keeps the peace, and the other 2 dogs kind of like follow his lead. And Shadow is a Saluki, so he's a medium-sized dog. He's about 40 pounds, and he's basically a Persian Greyhound. And he's the newest addition. He's a rescue from Qatar.
Okay.
So we had to go to Montreal to pick him up when he got flown in, and Duke and him don't get along as well. Like, he gets along with Duke, but Duke doesn't like him very much.
Right.
But he likes to bark at him and stuff, and try to tell him what to do. But Shadow's by far the wildest of the 3. And the youngest. He's only 2. So, and by far the fastest. So yeah.
My 2 pets get along, which really pisses me off, because one is a ball python and the other is a mouse, and they are not supposed to get along. Actually, the ball python is supposed to eat the mouse, and it doesn't want to.
No,
and it hasn't wanted to do that for weeks now. But ball pythons are like that. Sometimes they just don't want to eat.
Yeah. The two smaller dogs definitely they argue, or they often argue. They argue a little less now, but Shadow's been. It's also weird because all 3 of them have like radically different personalities. Like Dexter's, he's a troll, and he likes to get people to chase him around and stuff like that. Last night, I think I must have spent 10 minutes in the room just laughing my ass off at Dexter had Duke's toy, and my fiance was trying to get it back from him, and you could hear her out here going, "You're a bad dog, get back here," chasing him around the living room, and he was just trolling her. And Duke is I call him the fun police. He doesn't like it when the other 2 wrestle or do anything like that. And Shadow's just very much like an exuberant and it's really like been amazing to watch him come out of his shell. Like, when we first got him, he was very timid. Like, I had to carry him from the crate to the car, and he was just shaking, and it was terrible. Yeah, he was super scared, and he's always been kind of timid around people, but now to me especially, he's that's how he got his name. His original name was Shiloh, but when we got him, we stopped at a hotel room on the way home, and the entire time that I was with him, he would follow me around, and I said jokingly to my fiance, I said, he's like my little shadow. And like Shadow was so close to Shiloh that he answered to it, so I was like, Shadow's a way better name anyways. So so we chose that, but he's now like a huge cuddle bug. I mean, he'll cuddle for a while, and then he'll like kind of trot off, whereas my lab, as long as you pet him, he'll stay there, right? So
that's true.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch him like just develop his personality from where he was to now. So it's really nice to see. I think whenever one of the dogs passes away, which when it's Dexter's turn, for sure will be devastating to me. But if he passes away before I do, then I think I'll probably get another rescue. Maybe from a shelter or something, because it's been a really cool experience. Although I do like the experience of Dexter as well. I had him since he was like 8 weeks old, so there's a special bond there as well. So
I guess we've got a question. I'm not sure that is as directed at you as it may at me, because I was the one calling myself an anarchist. I want to say and it's the one that is on screen now. Do you agree with V's action in V for Vendetta? I really like the film, and I love violence on film, just like Quentin Tarantino does. If I was to instigate a revolution or a revolt, I don't think I would do it by blowing up Parliament just like that. That much I can say. I don't think that's the way to go around it. So I guess the short answer is not really. But it's a cool movie.
Yeah, I remember really liking the movie, but I'm not sure. It's been so long since I've seen it last that I don't really remember it in enough detail to answer that question. So,
right. Okay, I think I don't see any more questions. So, and we've had plenty of time to get questions up while you were talking about your absolutely awesome dogs. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. There will not be an after party this time, because I feel a little bit under the weather. But thank you very much for guesting my channel, Godless Cranium. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Anytime. And
I look forward to more awesome content from you. And any last word? Sorry. Any closing comments from you?
No, I think just for the two, I've kind of got a couple of projects kind of like on the back burner, but I really, one of them is going to be, I think I might talk about homelessness, and also the fishing dispute that's going on with in the Indigenous community in Canada. I think those two, maybe the history of the RCMP. I'm not sure. I have a lot of books on that, but we'll see. But yeah, I really enjoyed the talk, and thank you very much for having me on, and thank you to your listeners for taking the time to listen to me chat.
Sure. And I'll definitely look out for you doing more things on the issues with Indigenous people, because we know way too little about what is going on, and there's going some horrible things on in Canada, as far as I can understand.
Definitely not good. Yeah, my it's there's a lot of really bad things that happen in Canada.
And I think I said that in the wrong way. Because it's not an issue with the Indigenous people. It's more an issue with those who aren't, and can't just treat them as you should treat other people.
Yeah,
or you should just treat people. I mean, you get what I mean.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And you're completely right. It's the way they're treated is atrocious. I mean, I posted on Twitter yesterday about how there's one community, indigenous community, that's gone 25 years without clean water. I mean, that's not a mistake. You can't.
No.
They had like oily substances on the top of their water, and now they're having to move out of the area. The fishing dispute, they're burning the places where they keep the lobster and assaulting them while they're on their boats. So yeah, it's definitely not a mistake.
Denmark has been pretty heavy on the Greenland community as well. So maybe there could be some parallels we could investigate or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe yeah, sure. Okay, so last comments from me will be, as always, always remember to drink responsibly, and see you next time. Thank you once again. Bye bye.